How's it going, everyone? It's Steve here from DayDreamer Gaming, and this is game week 17 of the English Premier League. The games are coming thick and fast now. At time of recording this, only 24 hours ago, the Manchester Derby was being played, and here I am back recording another video giving you my thoughts on the upcoming midweek Premier League fixtures. So over the next 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday the 12th and 13th of December, there's a full Premier League calendar, and the first game on my list here is Burnley versus Stoke. So Burnley picked up a great 1-0 win at the weekend at home against Watford, which is what I went for a draw initially on my betting slip. I can't quite remember what I said in the last video, but great win, another clean sheet for Burnley. Stoke didn't have such a great weekend. 5-1 they lost to Tottenham. Harry Kane bagging another couple of goals. So yeah, Stoke down in 15th, and it wasn't a game they were expected to win anyway. I would think that they were probably hoping to do a bit better than losing 5-1. And Stoke do tend to get hammered away from home, or they have been a couple of times at least this season. Going to be looking over the shoulder a little bit in 15th place. I expect Burnley to make this another home win. They're very strong at home, and it's the reason that they are so high up in the league, or as high up as they are at the minute. So still doing great, and I expect them to win this game. Crystal Palace versus Watford. Wow, Crystal Palace, what a game that was at the weekend. 2-2 against Bournemouth. Benteke missing a last-minute penalty to win the game for Palace. He was determined that he was going to take the penalty, even though someone else had scored a penalty earlier on in the game. Yeah, not good. I can't imagine he was a very popular man in the Crystal Palace dressing room. Watford, they played Burnley, as I mentioned previously. Did go down to 10 men after about half hour or so, so they played a lot of that game with 10 men. So 1-0, not a bad result. And I was watching Soccer Saturday, and as the results were coming in and they were going to the grounds, getting the updates, it didn't sound like Watford were out of the game at all. But eventually losing that game, which is unfortunate, you know, but they've still had a brilliant start to the season. This is good. I mean, Crystal Palace have got to start winning, really. This is three draws in a row that they've got now. They need to start picking up a couple of wins, especially at home. They are bottom of the league because of the way the fixtures went at the weekend, so a win is essential here. It's going to be very, very tough for them. I'm going to go for another draw. The final game on Tuesday, it's just the three fixtures on Tuesday. We have Huddersfield versus Chelsea. Massive win for Huddersfield against Brighton at the weekend. 2-0 at home. That stopped a run of 4 straight defeats. It may have even been more than that. It may have been 5 or 6 defeats. But 4 straight defeats out there. 4 defeats out their last 5. Winning that game was huge for them. Great result. And Chelsea, they had a very, very bad result. The coupon buster, the midday coupon buster, was West Ham beating Chelsea. So, not fantastic. And Conte has already conceded the league, which is crazy to think, you know, we're at the... not even quite at the middle of December, and teams in third are already conceding the league to Man City. Huddersfield are still doing absolutely fantastic. 12th in the league. They'd have been more than happy with that going into December at the start of the season. I expect Chelsea to bounce back in this game. They can't afford to lose it again. They've still got to keep that top 4 position. Ideally, they want to be in the top 3. They don't want to have to qualify for the Champions League, although usually for the English teams it's a given that they will qualify if they do finish in 4th. But I don't see Chelsea getting back-to-back defeats, but Huddersfield will not make it easy for them, and they will try and put that pressure on, and yeah, they'll make it hard for them. It should be a decent game, that one. I'm going to go for a Chelsea win, though. Confident that will be the result there. So more games on Wednesday. First up, Newcastle versus Everton. So they lost 3-2 at the weekend to the mighty Leicester City. They came from behind twice, and it took an own goal for them to lose. And the reinforcements are definitely needed up at St James's Park. It doesn't look like the selling of the club is going to happen before January or during January. So Mike Ashley has got to back Benitez with some money, or they are going to really struggle. They're currently 16th, no wins in their last 5, 1 draw in those 5 games, 4 defeats. So it's not looking great for Newcastle, and there is a bit of discontent up there. And Rafa will walk if he doesn't get the funds. I think he's been quoted as saying that he needs a striker and probably a defender. I would say he probably needs a little bit more than that. They weren't terrible on Saturday, but they weren't brilliant, and Leicester let them get away with it a little bit. Leicester were poor in the first few minutes when Newcastle scored, controlled the game very much so for large parts. Leicester were unfortunate to go back at 2-2. The win for me was fair. It was fair that Leicester won. I would say that I'm a Leicester fan, but I think overall it was probably the right result. Everton, great result the weekend in the Merseyside derby. Controversial, soft penalty near the end of the game there. For me, it was a penalty, absolutely, 100%. They were very poor for large parts of that game, and Liverpool should have had that game out of sight. They really dominated the game and should have won that. So Everton have done great to get a draw there. Allardyce is already, having his making his mark on the team. Still think he's going to bring in a couple of players, especially at left back. Don't think that's their strongest position at the moment. Tough game to call this one. I always think Newcastle are going to do all right at home, but they haven't been great, have they, these last few games? And Everton are a little bit resurgent, shall we say? They're going to be buoyed by that result at the weekend. Unbeaten in 3 now, with picking up 7 points, which is big, which is massive considering where they were about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I'm going to go for a draw. Another draw. I'm sitting on the fence a lot recently. Going to go for a draw. And I'll tell you now, I'm going to go for a draw in the next game as well, because it involves Leicester away from home, and that is just my stock answer for anything. Whenever someone says, how do you think Leicester will get on when they're playing away, I'll always say, I'll take a draw. So Leicester travel to St Mary's, play Southampton. Southampton picking up a great draw against Arsenal. Very unlucky to have drawn that game. It took until the 88th minute, I think it was, for Giroud to pull back a goal there and make it 1-1 in that game. Leicester, as I've just touched on, great result. 3 wins in a row now. Very pleased with that. And I'm very confident with how Leicester are playing at the minute. I think if we can avoid defeat Wednesday night, and pick up a win at Palace on Saturday, it sets us up nicely going into Christmas. And Manchester United on the 23rd at home. So you don't, anything. If you pick up a point against United at home, that's great. So if we can go into that game unbeaten in 5 in the league, then I would be very happy with that going into the Christmas period. I do think it will be a draw though, and I would very much take a draw. Just because I think Southampton are one of those teams similar to Leicester. They're a mid-table side that can be great one week, terrible the next. Leicester can score a few, but then they can just look like they can't hit a barn door. So, yeah, I think this will be a draw. Swansea take on the mighty Manchester City. What a huge result for both teams at the weekend. I'll start with Swansea as the home team. 1-0 against West Brom, very much needed. Gets them off the bottom there, still 19th, and there's still a lot of work to do, and it's bought the manager perhaps another week in the job. I do think a defeat at the weekend would have seen Paul Clement out of a job, but he won, so he probably survived for another week. And talking of big results, Manchester City beating Manchester United at the weekend, extending the lead at the top by 11 points. Huge, absolutely huge in the context of where we are in terms of the title race. 14 games unbeaten. In fact, it's 14 wins, 14 Premier League wins in a row, which has equalled Arsenal's record, which I presume they set in the Invincibles year. I'd be pretty confident in saying that was the case. There's not much more you can say about this side. 4 games in a row, though, that the score has been 2-1, and the previous game before that was 2-0 against Leicester, and Leicester could have maybe scored in that game. Who knows? So yeah, three games in a row where they've won 2-1. But that shows the mentality of champions, really, that they can scrape by a 2-1, and I think that's been a lot of the analysis the last few weeks. So they're not thrashing teams anymore; they're digging out results, which is a sign of a good side and a sign of potential champions. I do think they will win the league. I'm not going to say it's over now because you just do not know. They've got some tough games coming up. They've got Tottenham very, very soon, so that could be cancelled out. And hey, Swansea won. Confidence is up. Stranger things have happened in football, so you just never know what's going to happen. I am going to be realistic, though, and I'm going to go for a Man City win. West Brom travel to Anfield, take on Liverpool. Liverpool should have won that Merseyside derby quite comfortably, had so much of the ball. Everton really didn't have an answer for them. They were just hoofing the ball up. Liverpool should have been out of sight. Interesting team selection by Klopp. He left out Firmino and Coutinho, and ultimately it's backfired on him, and that's where the criticism has come. Klopp has made himself look a little bit of a fool with his post-match interview with Sky, where he just was a bit mardy about the penalty. For me, it was a penalty, 100%. Yes, the player went down easily. He's played for it. He stepped in front of Lovren to get the foul. But that's modern football, and that's the way things operate these days. And Lovren did have his hands all over his back. Penalty for me. West Brom, not a brilliant result of the weekend. As I just mentioned, losing to Swansea, a game which I think they could have perhaps, or should have been probably aiming to get a draw. So still no win for Alan Pardew. No win in their last 5. That probably extends further than that, to be honest. 3 draws and 2 defeats in the last 5. Things are starting to look a little bit desperate for West Brom. They're currently 17th, so they're not quite in the relegation zone, but they are very, very close. Liverpool winning this one. I think there'll be a reaction from the weekend. Changes will be made. Coutinho will play. Firmino will be in. So I think you'll have that front 4. Firmino, Coutinho, Salah and Mane. Salah's goal at the weekend. Wow, that was fantastic. Again, he's been superb, and he is, as I've said before, De Bruyne has been fantastic. David Silva's been fantastic. But yeah, Mo Salah is my... If I was going to go for a half-season player of the year, it would be Mo Salah. Liverpool win. Manchester United take on Bournemouth at Old Trafford. Defeat of the weekend. They weren't brilliant first half. Very, very poor. It could only be tactics, I would say, that made them play that way. Hoofing the ball up. They were playing it long. The ball was going to Rojo. He was playing it long. Second half, United were much, much better. I was surprised Mourinho didn't react quicker when City went to a back 3 and he didn't bring a second striker on. The goal was fortunate in that Delph slipped over, who isn't a recognised left back. I was very surprised that Delph has been brilliant this season, but I was very surprised that they didn't give the ball more to Martial, because the skill that guy has got, he should have had Delph every single time he got the ball, but the ball hardly ever went to him. It just went long to Lukaku, who was isolated, and the poor bloke is coming for a lot of stick because people are saying it was his fault or he had an involvement in both the Man City goals. It's fine margins football. As I said to a friend of mine who's a Manchester United fan, both of their goals have come from 2 drop downs in the 6-yard box. The same thing happened to United, and it hits the Edison in the face. Fine margins football. Bournemouth, they got away with one at the weekend with that draw at Crystal Palace, giving away that last-minute penalty and Benteke missing. But a draw away from home, you would absolutely take that. And they would definitely take a draw away at Old Trafford. But I do think United, again, another team that I think will show a bit of a reaction, much like Chelsea and much like Liverpool. I think they will comfortably beat Bournemouth, and it could even be a 3-4-0 sort of job. United win for me. Spurs take on Brighton. Spurs, massive win at the weekend. Harry Kane bagging a couple of goals. 5-1 against Stoke. A team that they do like to stick a few goals past. So, fantastic win for them. Champions League draw today, I forgot to mention. They've got Juventus. They've probably got... so, Chelsea have got Barcelona. That's probably the toughest one of the English teams. Tottenham have got Juventus, and they play the second leg at Wembley at home. So, yeah, that could be interesting. Tottenham have got to play it careful, a bit like Leicester. They don't want to kind of totally lose that home form for the sake of the Champions League, unless you are genuinely going to go on and win it, which you just never know. Brighton, yeah, they would have been disappointed with that 2-0, of course. You're always disappointed when you lose. Thought they perhaps could have gone to Huddersfield and get a draw, but Huddersfield, much like Brighton, they've got to pick the points up at home. So, you know, not overall, not massively surprised that Huddersfield picked up a win. No-brainer for me, this one. Spurs win, but won't be too easy, I don't think. And the final game, and is the game that has been badly played here on FIFA 18 by the computer, is West Ham versus Arsenal. Huge, huge result. David Moyes' first win at the weekend against Chelsea. Brilliant. Well done. Fair play to them. It's what the fans wanted. It would have given the fans a huge, and the players a huge, huge lift. So, you know, fantastic. Well done. They're still 18th, still in the relegation zone. So there's still a lot of work to do there. And draw for Arsenal at Southampton. It was one that I looked at and I thought might be a little bit tricky for Arsenal going down to Southampton. They had Europa League in the week as well. I know they played a load of kids, so you know, but there we go. It's not a terrible result, but I mean, I haven't seen the game, I haven't seen the highlights, so I don't know if Arsenal were good, bad, indifferent. But you know, I mean, they are fifth. If they want to break into the top four, they've got to be going to Southampton and winning, really. This isn't going to be an easy game. West Ham are going to be really buoyed and really up for this. I know recently when Arsenal have played West Ham, they've thrashed them, but hey, things are a little bit different now. I know it's only one win, but they are going to be confident. I'm going to go for another draw. I think this is going to be not so much a surprise. I think West Ham will frustrate Arsenal. I could be very, very wrong on that one. I might be horribly wrong, in fact. So, that brings me to the end of my preview and predictions for Game Week 17 of the English Premier League. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and share the video. Don't forget to subscribe to DayDreamer Sport, which is the channel that these videos are now being uploaded to. And don't forget to subscribe to the main channel, DayDreamer Gaming. And I think that's it. I think that's absolutely everything. So, yeah, quick turnaround. Some decent games coming up. It's Christmas. It's just football everywhere, and it's fantastic. I will be back later on this week with my predictions for Game Week 18 of the Premier League. Week and a bit just before Christmas. More and more football. Great stuff. Thank you very much, and I will speak to you very, very soon. Cheers. Bye.